Headlines: the National Popular Assembly and the Council of the Nation today opened their spring session to examine a number of pending draft laws. The Algerian-US Partnership Council for Boosting Bilateral Cooperation held a meeting on Monday here in Algiers. And Palestinians in Gaza are reeling with protests after an Egyptian court declared Hamas movement as a terrorist organization. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Dzair News and welcome to this English News edition. First, in our top stories, in the wake of the conclusion on Sunday here in Algiers of Mali's Peace and Reconciliation Agreement under the supervision of the International Mediation chaired by Algeria as a mediator leader and represented by Foreign Affairs Minister Ramtan Lamamra, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mrs. Dlamini Zuma, and the European Union have both hailed the signing of this inter-Malian deal as a major breakthrough. Karim Faz-Zakri has more.
A peace and reconciliation agreement under the supervision of the international mediation chaired by Algeria as a mediation leader, represented by the Foreign Affairs Minister Ramtan Lamamra, was signed on Sunday here in Algiers. The Malian parties involved in the dialogue for the settling of the crisis in the northern region of Mali have all initialed the peace accord. As a result, Mali's government and alliance of Tuareg-led northern insurgents agreed to totally cease hostilities and to ease tensions during the UN-sponsored peace negotiations aimed at ending decades of uprisings. Chairperson of the African Union Commission AU, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, welcomed Sunday the signing in Algiers of the Agreement for Peace and Reconciliation in Mali. Dlamini Zuma expressed in a statement the recognition of AU to President of the Republic Abdelaziz Bouteflika for the sustained efforts and sacrifices made by Algeria, leader of the mediation for the return of peace and concord in Mali. She also underlined her appreciation to the countries and organizations members of the mediation team for their unrelenting commitment and contribution to this important progress. The chairperson of the African Union said that this document constitutes a balanced compromise taking into account the concerns of all the parties on the basis of the scrupulous respect of the unity, territorial integrity, and sovereignty of Mali, as well as the secular nature of the state. For their part, the European Union, EU, hailed Sunday the signing in Algiers of the Malian Peace and Reconciliation Agreement. The signing and the diligent and effective implementation of the document will allow achieving a lasting solution to the crisis in northern Mali, stabilizing this region, and speeding up the social-economic development. They will also enable a more determined fight against terrorism and organized transnational crime.
Foreign Affairs Minister Ramtan Lamamra arrived Sunday in Geneva, Switzerland to take part in the proceedings of the 28th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council starting Monday to be held in the Swiss city. Algeria seeks to improve the respect and safeguarding of all human rights as part of the Universal Periodic Review initiated by the United Nations Human Rights Council, said a source close to the Algerian delegation. In parliamentary affairs, the People's National Assembly, or lower house of parliament, opened Monday its spring session 2015 under the chairmanship of Ali Al-Hamel, the house's deputy speaker. The Council of the Nation, or upper house of parliament, also opened Monday in Algiers the spring session under the chairmanship of the speaker of the council, Abdelkader Ben Saleh, in the presence of Prime Minister Abdelmalek Sellal and members of the government. In his opening speech, Mr. Ben Saleh said that several important draft laws will be examined during this session, including a bill relating to the goods and imports, another one relating to fisheries and fish farming, and a bill pertaining to regulation of the activities of the national book market. However, the opening session was boycotted by most of the MPs representing opposition parties. Following the unfortunate clashes that erupted in the In Salah region in southern Algeria between anti-shale protesters and security forces, the Ministry of the Interior and local assemblies expressed its deepest regret and urged all the parties at issue to immediately shun trouble and to refrain from worsening the situation. It said the government remains convinced that the wisdom and immutable patriotism of the local residents of In Salah will triumph over any attempts threatening the national unity and the stability of the country. Mustafa Azzouk has more.
Following Sunday clashes between anti-shale gas protesters and Algerian law enforcement, where 40 police officers were wounded and several public buildings were burned down in the In Salah area in southern Algeria, the Ministry of Interior and local assemblies stressed that the doors remain open for a peaceful dialogue to settle the situation once and for all. The ministry expressed its deepest regret about the unfortunate incidents that erupted in the region of In Salah and urged all the involved parties to immediately stop in order not to escalate the situation. The government remains convinced that the wisdom and the patriotism of the residents of In Salah will triumph over any attempts threatening the national stability of the country. The southern area witnessed unprecedented clashes. Protesters set fire to the headquarters of In Salah district and the residence of the district chief, as well as part of a police dormitory and a police truck as well. Fortunately, the security forces managed to take control of the situation and bring calm to the city. Anti-shale gas demonstrations have increased in the cities of the Algerian Sahara since late December, when Algerian oil company Sonatrach announced it had successfully completed its first pilot drilling in the In Salah region.
Our correspondent on the spot interviewed a local resident of In Salah who had this to say.
If we talk about the citizens, they are manifesting against the shale gas. We call it the shale gas. And we wonder how the responsibility, the authorities are not taking this into consideration. We are just against the cracking, right? So since 2 months is even over, we wonder how about these authorities are not looking at their kids around here, the simple, humble citizens here in In Salah, and even in all around the world. We wonder why this. And just in these days, we heard about that they have found something what we call the oil. So what we hope, in a simple way, in a really simple way, that the authority must stop this cracking about the shale gas.
In other local news dealing with cooperation, both the FCE Forum and the special envoy in charge of the Algerian-French economic relations, Jean-Louis Bianco, now on a visit to Algeria, have agreed on broadening partnership to include the sectors of communication, technologies and food processing industries. This joint endeavor is set among the priorities of the ongoing cooperation drive between Algerian enterprises and their French counterparts. Hinsman has more.
Following the first meeting of FCE Forum, the French ambassador to Algeria with a view to broaden the French-Algerian investment, the FCE once again reaffirms in its turn its willingness to widen the economic relations between Paris and Algeria in a meeting with the French special envoy in charge of economic partnership between the two countries.
We have shared certain elements about partnership, development between French and Algerian enterprises. We have clearly explained to Mr. Jean-Louis Bianco that the FCE Forum intends to intensify the relations between the two countries.
Seeking to intensify relations between small and medium-scale companies was what the forum suggested, having had the approval of the French representatives who consider this development a crucial matter.
The relations between the two countries involve men, women, culture, shared language and values all together, but it's also the cooperation of companies. We won't achieve anything until relations between all sorts of enterprises evolve. We're heading to the same direction when it comes to partnership development.
The Algerian-French economic relations will no doubt intensify. Algerian companies, meanwhile, would have to step forward towards improving and benefiting from the French expertise and the enterprise field.
The second episode in the Algerian-US partnership boosting was held on Monday here in the capital Algiers with the arrival of a U.S. Trade and Investment Trade Mission headed by U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Economic and Business Affairs, Mr. Charles Rivkin. Lamia Ashush attended the event and brought back the following report.
A U.S. Trade and Investment Mission landed in Algeria, headed by Mr. Charles Rivkin, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Economic and Business Affairs, to continue the promotion of economic partnership that has been achieved during the U.S.-Algeria roadshow back in October 2014 in the USA. Mr. Charles Rivkin stressed the importance of diversifying Algeria's economy in the light of the current international oil crisis, all the while reiterating the need for more incentives for U.S. investors, addressing the controversial 4951 foreign investment rule.
Another challenge that's raised often is the 4951 rule, which prohibits foreign companies from having a majority ownership stake. Now, I have to say, with greater incentive to participate, many more American companies will come forward to support Algeria's efforts to build the economy.
For his part, Industry and Mines Minister Abdeslam Bouchouareb said that the investment rule is not a barrier to U.S. investors.
I said it, and I will repeat it. The 5149 rule is maintained and even enlarged. We have reinforced it and we will include it in the commercial transactions, which is its natural place. The 5149 rule has not stopped General Electric to have 2 partnership deals within 1 year, along with all the big American corporations present here.
Addressing a pivotal point, the Heads of Enterprises Forum's president, Mr. Ali Haddad, stressed the importance of opening up a direct airline between Algeria and the U.S., a pressing necessity for the development of bilateral trade.
Son Excellence a souhaité.
His Excellency wished to open the airline between Algeria and the U.S. Let's start by establishing a direct line between Washington and Algiers. This is how we will create a link.
The second episode of the Algerian-U.S. economic rapprochement here in Algiers represented a stronger will to build solid trade relations in hope of the concretization of more partnership deals in the nearest future.
In the same file, U.S. businessmen present at today's conference expressed their interest in the Algerian market and wish to have opportunities to expand their businesses here. Let's take a listen.
We want to partner with hospitals in Algeria so that we can take biotech and cancer therapies into a patient's home and expand access to many more therapies and medicines in Algeria for patients.
And we're here to learn about the potato industry, to see how we can help the potato industry here grow by using American seed varieties, American machinery, and production techniques. I knew that Algeria is one of the major seed potato importers in the world, that there was a very important crop here, but I've learned since I've been here how important potatoes are in the diet of Algerians, which is very important for us as well, and so we're very interested.
Still with economy-related news, the number of investment projects registered in 2014 at the National Agency for Investment Development, ANDI, shows an investment growth process and an attractive market here in Algeria, according to the General Manager of the ANDI agency, Abdelkrim Mansouri. More on the topic with Mohamed Barazwan.
In the year 2014, the number of registered investment projects increased to 9,904, estimated at over 2,000 billion dinars, from 8,895 projects to 1,716 billion dinars in the year 2013, that is up 28%. Those projects were expected to create about 151,000 jobs. That is over 2,000 more jobs compared with the investment project registered in the year 2013. Indicators show a growing investment process at the national level and an attractive market, especially as there are huge opportunities and market shares to conquer, as well as a diversity of partners, constant efforts for promotion and development of existing potentialities here in Algeria, according to Mr. Mansouri. With such data, the year 2014 is considered as the best in terms of investment projects recorded here in Algeria since 2001, when the measures governing investment development came into force.
The Minister of Water Resources, Hussein Nasib, announced that the government allocated $400 billion or dinars to modernize the water system in the south of Algeria. The new strategy aims at ensuring the achievement of several socio-economic development projects in the southern regions of the country. Mustafa Azzouk illustrates.
The water system in the southern regions of the country is said to be modernized as the government undertook new policies aimed at revolutionizing the south of Algeria. During a joint working visit to Ouargla, the Minister of Water Resources said that 400 billion dinars were allocated to implementing several projects in the southern regions, including the project of fighting against the phenomena of waterizing in both provinces of Ouargla and El Wad, in addition to other overhauling plans in drinking water supply. The Minister of Water Resources, Hussein Nasib, said that the province of Ouargla includes, like other regions of the south, major water potentials. The Minister of Water Resources, Hussein Nasib, announced that a conference on investment opportunities in water resources in Algeria will be organized in May in Washington, United States, with a view of attracting potential partners. This conference aims particularly to inform the American economic operators of investment potentialities offered by the 5-year plan in this sector. The objective is also to meet the needs of the water resources sector through international partnership, notably with the Americans who possess the technological expertise in this field.
Moving on to the education file, National Education Minister Nouria Ben Ghabrid said that the school exams will be held on schedule and in a very usual way, taking into account the conditions of each educational institution. In a statement made on the same lines of the opening of the spring session of the two houses of parliament on Monday. Meanwhile, the CNAPES union has announced its decision to boycott a proposed meeting with the various education managers while threatening to further bolster the current teachers' strike movement until their pending socio-professional claims are fulfilled by the relevant authorities. MDI School has signed a contract with the British Council to adopt a new program called to evaluate the English knowledge of employees in Algerian companies and enterprises. The meeting was chaired by the head of MDI School, Mr. Ben Abdeslam, the British ambassador, Mr. Andrew Noble, and the head of the British Council, Mr. Martin Daltrey. Wissam Asnusi illustrates more.
A gathering was chaired today at the premises of the MDI School by the British Ambassador, Mr. Andrew Noble, and the head of the British Council, Mr. Martin Daltrey, along with the head of the MDI School, Mr. Ben Abdeslam, to present a collaboration of a training program. Mr. Noble showed his appreciation to the program and English learning in Algeria as a whole, adding that Algerian people are first learners concerning English. The meeting was attended by a number of students and teachers who have a strong interest in learning and teaching English in Algeria, describing the program as a good way to evaluate the level of English knowledge within Algerian English-speaking community.
So what I've learned from APTIS is that it's a great tool to actually really get a grasp of somebody's level in English, because usually there's a gap between the level you think you have and the level that is required in schools or even at work. I think it's also interesting that you can adapt it to the field that you're trying to get into, for example, teaching.
Just know that it is an amazing tool to learn from our personal capacity of English. I think that companies and schools can use this tool to evaluate the level of English of their student or employees.
Different programs are offered by the British Council in cooperation with the Ministries of National Education, Higher Education and different organizations as well to enhance English speaking in Algeria, paving the way to further cultural and economic exchange between Algeria and the UK.
For his part, British Ambassador to Algeria had this to say to our cameras.
Well, English language teaching that the British Council is engaged in is going through big changes, and it's expanding all of the time. Here we are at MDI for the launch of a partnership about APTIS testing. We've got our work with the Ministry of National Education, but also the Ministry of Higher Education. We have a bilateral agreement to send PhD students to the UK. The British Council is working with a number of Algerian companies. We have our major fair in Oran on the 1st of May for 1,000 English language teachers from across the country to come together to improve their skills and to go back to their cities across Algeria and teach English even more effectively than they have in the past. And that's the sort of thing that we're developing.
And finally to the Middle East now. Palestinians in Gaza are reeling after an Egyptian court declared Hamas as a terrorist organization this weekend, creating fear and uncertainty among the local population. Karim Fassakri.
Palestinians in Gaza are reeling after an Egyptian court declared Hamas a terrorist organization this weekend, creating fear and uncertainty among the local population. But with the Egyptian border already closed to Gazans and Hamas leaders previously banned from Egypt, the situation on the ground may not change dramatically, observers said, noting talk of an Egyptian military operation against Hamas in Gaza is premature. Still, Palestinians linked to Hamas and other factions have poured into the streets throughout Gaza to protest the court decision. The Egyptian court's verdict is a coup against the will of its people, pronounced one protest sign at a demonstration on Sunday night, which brought hundreds of Hamas supporters into the center of Gaza City. The green flag of Hamas was everywhere, along with signs praising Hamas and its armed wing, Al-Qassam brigades. The Egyptian court's decision was designed to put pressure on Hamas. They want to find an imaginary enemy, Radwan said, noting Hamas, as a Palestinian national liberation movement, was not involved with the Egyptian internal affairs. But tension between the two sides has mounted for years. Egypt is in the process of widening a buffer zone with the Gaza Strip, while systematically destroying a series of smuggling tunnels linking Gaza and Sinai. Egypt says these tunnels have been used to smuggle arms from Gaza to Sinai fighters. Hamas was pressing Egypt and other parties to overturn Saturday's court ruling, but added that in the meantime, Hamas would disregard the decision. The decision was meant to put pressure on both Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. The Egyptian media has also played a role in the incitement against Hamas.
The end of our English news edition, brought to you live from Dzair News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in our way. Bye-bye.